Something strange is happening in New York. You may have heard about the case, the state's Attorney General Letitia James suing Donald Trump for alleged massive fraud. She won for now. The media called it justice, holding the powerful accountable. But what if the real story is darker? What if the person fighting fraud was engaged in it herself? The hunter may have become the hunted. This isn't just another political squabble. It's about the weaponization of our justice system. Letitia James didn't just run for office. She ran on a promise to get Donald Trump. She had her target before she had a crime. She dug through years of financial statements, put a former president and his family on trial, and got a verdict that stunned the country. But now, a new chapter is unfolding. One they don't want you to read. The narrative was simple. Trump, the corrupt mogul, finally caught. James, the hero. But what happens when a whistleblower steps out of the shadows with a different story? A story of deception and lies. Suddenly the hero looks less heroic, the villain less villainous. The whole affair starts to look less like justice and more like a political hit job. A hit job that may have involved breaking the very laws Letitia James swore to uphold. This is a story about power. The kind that corrupts absolutely. It's about what happens when those in charge decide the rules only apply to their enemies. If they can do this to a former president, who can't they do it to? The implications are chilling. This is not about party lines, it's about the integrity of our system. And it should concern every American, because if justice can be twisted for politics, no one is safe. The hunter may soon find herself the hunted. Why did this case matter so much? It wasn't about accounting standards or property values. It was a test. Could the system be used to remove a political threat? Trump wasn't just a former president, he was the leading candidate for the presidency. The people in charge didn't want him back, so they used the courts, the full power of New York, to try to bankrupt him. The case was bizarre from the start. Letitia James accused Trump of inflating property values to get better loans, but the supposed victims, the banks, weren't complaining. They testified they liked doing business with Trump, who paid back all loans, on time, with interest. The banks made millions. So where was the crime? Where was the victim? It was a fraud case with no fraud and no victims. But it didn't have to make sense, it just had to work. The goal wasn't justice, it was a headline and a crippling penalty. Judge Arthur Engoron ruled Trump liable for fraud before the trial even began. The trial was just to set the penalty, nearly $500 million. This wasn't a normal legal proceeding, it was political theater. The nation watched, not for real estate finance, but because they saw the system being twisted for political ends. A prosecutor who promised to nail her target, and a judge who seemed happy to help. It became a symbol of a two-tiered justice system. One set of rules for the favored, another for the targeted. It was a spectacle, a chilling one, and it raised a fundamental question. Is the law still blind, or does it now peek to see who stands before it? The answer will shape our trust in justice. This case was never just about Trump, it was about the future of the rule of law, and everyone was watching. Who is Letitia James? Is she a fair prosecutor or something else? James is not a traditional prosecutor, she's a political activist with a law degree. Her career is rooted in New York's progressive machine. For her, the law is a tool for political power and ideology. She was open about it. Her campaign for Attorney General focused on one thing: Donald Trump. She called him illegitimate, promised to be a real pain, and vowed to sue him. This was her central pledge, not to uphold the law, but to take down a political enemy. That's a perversion of a prosecutor's role. Prosecutors are supposed to investigate crimes, not pick targets and hunt for crimes. That's what happens in dictatorships. Yet, James campaigned on it, and the media applauded. They saw nothing wrong with using state power to destroy a political opponent. When she finally brought her case, it was the fulfillment of a vendetta. Years spent searching for anything to use. The case wasn't about protecting the public, it was about keeping a campaign promise. This context is everything. It shows the case was never about facts or law, it was always about the man, always about getting Trump. And that's why the story matters. Because when justice becomes personal, it stops being justice. And the consequences are dangerous. Just when the story seemed over, it exploded again. This time inside Letitia James's own office. The allegation? Fraud. The very thing she accused Trump of. The accuser, an insider, a whistleblower from within the Attorney General's office. The claims are stunning. A conspiracy to hide damaging information, mislead the court, and protect a key witness. According to the whistleblower, a top official engaged in serious misconduct. When this was reported, the office didn't investigate. They covered it up. They chose to protect their case and reputation over the truth. This changes everything. The case against Trump rested on the credibility of James's office. If these allegations are true, that credibility is gone. If they covered up misconduct, what else did they do? The entire prosecution may have been tainted from the start. This isn't just a political witch hunt, it could be a fraudulent one. The specifics are complex, but the core is simple. A key figure in the Trump investigation was allegedly compromised, and the office looked the other way to protect their case. The implications are enormous. Who's making these claims? Sarah Wallace, a high-ranking official in the AG's office. She filed a whistleblower lawsuit, laying out a disturbing story. Wallace says she was forced out for raising alarms about David Gentner, a state housing official and key outside counsel on the Trump case. She discovered Gentner was using his position to benefit a private company, a serious conflict of interest. Wallace reported it up the chain expecting an investigation. Instead, the office turned on her. The lawsuit alleges a cover-up. Senior officials buried the complaint to avoid bad press and protect their crusade against Trump. Wallace was stripped of duties, marginalized, and forced to resign for doing the right thing. This is the view from inside, an office so consumed by its target, it lost its ethical compass. Loyalty to the mission mattered more than loyalty to the law. The whistleblower's account suggests the rot was at the top. The decision to ignore corruption came from senior leadership. This isn't just an allegation. It's a formal lawsuit, with a named accuser willing to testify under oath. The stakes couldn't be higher. Let's compare. Trump was accused of fraud for inflating asset values, yet the banks made millions, and no one lost money. The fraud was a matter of opinion, a dispute over valuations. For this, Trump faced a $500 million penalty. On the other side, allegations that Letitia James's office covered up potential illegal activity and conflicts of interest at the heart of the Trump investigation. The whistleblower says the office buried the complaint and retaliated against her. This isn't about square footage. It's about the integrity of the justice system. Which is more serious, a victimless civil dispute or a potential criminal conspiracy to obstruct justice? If prosecutors can hide evidence and punish whistleblowers, the process becomes a sham. Letitia James presented herself as a paragon of virtue, but the lawsuit suggests her office engaged in the very behavior she claimed to fight. It's a tale of two frauds, and the one by the state looks far more dangerous. The timing of these revelations is critical. They emerge as Trump appeals the massive judgment. His lawyers now have a powerful new argument. How can the verdict stand when the prosecutor's office is accused of covering up corruption? It's a cannonball into the prosecution's case. The political fallout is explosive. For months the narrative was set, Trump the fraudster, James the hero. Now that narrative is collapsing. The story is about potential prosecutorial misconduct and abuse of power. This helps Trump politically, reinforcing his claim of a witch hunt. Letitia James is now on the defensive, her credibility wounded. Every time she talks about Trump's fraud, she'll be reminded of the fraud she's accused of concealing. Her political triumph is turning into a disaster. The Democratic Party, which celebrated her, now faces a champion wounded by scandal. The case they saw as a slam dunk is clouded by accusations. It makes them look willing to win at any cost, even if it means breaking the law. The political consequences are just beginning, and they could be immense. This story is about more than Trump and Letitia James. It's about public trust. Trust in our institutions is the foundation of a free society. Right now that foundation is cracking. This case and the allegations around it are hammering away at what little trust remains. Millions no longer believe they can get a fair shake from the justice system. When a prosecutor campaigns to get a political opponent, trust erodes. When a judge's ruling seems wildly disproportionate, trust erodes. When a prosecutor's office is accused of covering up misconduct, trust shatters. It creates a crisis of legitimacy. The media bears responsibility too for ignoring the political motivations and downplaying the victimless nature of the alleged crime. Their silence now is a journalistic failure. This is how you destroy faith in institutions, not with armies, but by convincing people the system is a lie. Rebuilding that trust may not even be possible. So what happens now? Trump's appeal will use these new allegations to argue the trial was a sham. The whistleblower lawsuit gives his lawyers new ammunition. The judgment could be reduced or thrown out. The legal battle is far from over. Meanwhile, Sarah Wallace's lawsuit will move forward, with officials forced to answer under oath. If her claims are proven, the consequences for Letitia James could be severe. But the biggest trial is of the system itself. Can it correct itself, or is it too broken? The outcome will set a precedent for decades, and the world is watching.